Trying to boost my subscribers, I'm trying to maintain the vision. People that know me closest live different than what they show me. It's hard to feel like they know me when I'm just scrolling through images. Truth be told, I feel pain, but I'm on the pinnacle. Been chasing this music thing for a minute though. Know some good people that never see success. And here I am sitting worried about show appearances.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angeline, and she's Resa, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 117 of With the Quickness.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, indeed. Today, we're going to share our takeaways from the October 23rd, 2022 sermon given at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, and a past sermon given at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church in Chicago, which is located in Chicago, Illinois. So, Resa, what was your biggest takeaway from this week's sermons at first? Let's go to First Baptist first.
Okay, so for First Baptist, I actually have two takeaways. My first one is learn how to fail beautifully and keep going. And then my second one is it's okay to have faith and not to want to struggle.
Okay, my big takeaway from First Baptist is make sure your goal is worthy of your perseverance. What's your big takeaway from Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church in Chicago?
We have to know that cancer exists, and we definitely need to be on top of getting our yearly mammogram screenings so we can catch it early.
My big takeaway was on the lines of domestic violence. He said domestic violence is evil, verbal, emotional, and mental abuse is real. We're going to get a little bit more into both of those sermons a little later, but right now it's time for Resa's playlist. Resa, what's the song of the week this week?
Are we ready? It's time.
We narrowed it down to one song. This is Song of the Week, currently featured on With the Quickness Spotify playlist.
So the song of the week this week is actually by a new artist. He first appeared on NBC's The Voice season 7. His name is Blessing. I believe the last name is Offor. The song is called Your Love and it's off of his up and coming debut album called My Tribe, and it's coming out this January. So I'm very excited about it. January 13th. Matter of fact. So for those of you that don't know, Blessing, again, he was on season 7 of The Voice. He was originally born in Nigeria and he came over to the US. He did have some type of what was it? I think it was he had a congenital glaucoma in his left eye. And then he actually ended up having like an accident that made him like legally blind. So that's why he wears like the shades. But other than that, that hasn't stopped him from pursuing his goals. So I would look at him as like the gospel version of like Stevie Wonder, because again, that was someone else who was also blind. I believe so was Ray Charles. Ray Charles was also legally blind as well. But his single that he has out, Your Love, it basically talks about, the light that comes in when you're going through like a dark period. So to keep the faith. And I really, really love that song because, again, things are getting better in the world, but there's still some trying things. So sometimes you have to remember, even though things could be dark, like there is a light that, that can be shined through in these like trying times.
That's a great song. I'm glad you picked that. It actually kind of ties into one of the sermons that we're given and into our Bema Seat story. So I'm really glad you picked it. What's it called again? And you said it's currently out? So
the song is called Your Love and it's by Blessing Offor. So it's Offor, his last name.
All right. Thank you so much. So that song is going to be on our website. Is there a video out for it that you know of, or is it so brand new?
Well, it's actually brand new because the song just dropped a couple days ago. The only thing that we have at this point is a lyric video on YouTube. So I'm sure we'll probably add that to our website.
Okay, great. So those that are interested in giving it a listen to, you can go to www.withquickness.com and see that lyric video there. You can also look at Resa's playlist on Spotify and see that song and other songs we selected for season 2. Thanks so much, Resa. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's go on to the bulk of our show. Sunday service at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey. This Sunday, Resa, the choir was back.
I was so excited.
I was so excited too.
So happy.
Did you see the pageantry? They had the flag bearer going, right?
I did.
And they came through singing at the same time, and I was like all wearing black, and they were ready to go. They filled the whole, all the stands behind Pastor Quick was filled with beautiful voices. And I was like, sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, they were all up there. What did it make you feel like seeing everybody back in full effect?
Honestly, I was so happy to see everyone dressed in black. Everyone looked really elegant, but the thing that I loved the most was the melody, because you heard the sopranos, the altos, like the tenors, and they all came together. One of the things that I love about church is the choir, because I feel like the choir makes the experience because again, you come in and like the way I'm trying to explain it, but I really can't, because it's just like, until you have actually been in the presence of a church choir and you hear all of the different elements, like that's how I catch the Holy Spirit very quickly.
Especially with the museums, the way the sound swells in the sanctuary and pours out into the foyer.
Right.
You can't it gives you goosebumps when they hit certain notes. And if you're thinking and meditating on some part of God's word or something going on in your life, and their lyrics the song they're singing starts to hit that, it can make you weep, and the songs were really good this Sunday.
Yeah.
Another thing that was great about it is that we had baptisms. We had 5 people baptized today.
We did.
Wouldn't it make you feel like watching that? Because during our break, you had decided to accept First Baptist as your home church.
Yes, I did.
No longer the Potter House for you. You decided to come and say, I want a local church as my church home and not one that's so far in Texas. So how did it make you feel watching the baptisms?
It definitely made me feel happy. There was one baptism in particular that stood out to me. I believe her name was Sister Muhammad. I can't remember her first name. I apologize for that. But just seeing like everyone that had came to her baptism, and the fact that the pastor was like, listen, I know you've been through a lot, but even though you have been through a lot, like you still have this light inside of you, and I could see it. And the fact that you're adding this extra covering on you so your light can shine even brighter. I was like, that was really touching, because again, a lot of people, like, you don't know what they have been through or what their story is. So when they do decide to get baptized and they want that extra covering, like it can actually change their life for a better way of living.
Yeah. And Brother Chapman is 81 years old, former military guy. Yes. He said, you know what? I want to go ahead and be baptized. Like, God bless him. If you can do it as a small child, you can do it, as a senior citizen, you can do it whenever it's on your heart to do it. That was the most beautiful thing right there. Both of those, and all the ones that decided to come forward, their families just gathered with such a touching part. And I loved how Pastor Quick took a moment to not only know the families, but taking a moment to know who had shown up, to show their support of that decision. Like he was making sure they were positioned where they wanted to see it and record it. A lot of pastors don't take that time. They're like, I want to get through the baptisms as quickly as possible because I have other parts of the service. And you can feel the hurriedness of that. And he was like, nope, the families have made, time to see this commitment. The person that is about to be baptized is, has their village, and I'm going to give it the honor it's due, because it also means a lot that the family's coming forward saying, we know you've made this change and this commitment, and we're going to support you on your walk. We might not agree with everything you do, because some of us might not be Christians in the family, right?
Right.
But we understand what this means to you, and we're not going to hinder the walk. We're here supporting you. That means a lot.
Yeah. And like you said, I did think that was also beautiful that, the pastor was there, and not only was he there to oversee it, but he's actually spoken to the people that were getting baptized, and he knew some of the people's relatives, just to know, I'm here to support you, and I'm here on your journey.
And speaking about choirs, I love how we have baptisms at First Baptist. It's always the men. It's always the leadership and the men that are singing that "Take It to the Water" song. It's something about that when you hear the brethren, like, all them deep voices over there, they seasoned, they full of wisdom, just singing about taking it to the water. Like, I like that. Now, it did cut at the end to the choir singing it in the sanctuary.
Right.
But it's just something about every Sunday when I hear those older seasoned voices of the brethren, something about men singing, man. It's like, I hope the men's choir comes back.
Yeah. Like I
can't wait for that.
I will say that, when I did hear the gentleman sing the baptism song. I don't know why, but it just reminds me of the South. And it reminds me of that movie that Oprah Winfrey produced like years ago, Their Eyes Were Watching God, when they were like, it's a film in the South. If you haven't seen it, it stars Holly Berry, and I forgot the guy's name. Michael Ealy. So those two star in the movie. But his voice just reminds me of being in the Deep South and finding like an open body of water, and people are wearing all white and they're being baptized, and you hear like this gentleman singing this song because his voice is like there's a lot of life in that voice, and you hear it. It's like you can hear your ancestors coming through his voice.
That's why I hope all those gentlemen continue to sing at the baptisms. I know some people are saying, oh, some of the choir should be there singing. Nope. I like it exactly the way it is. Now, it doesn't mean it can't change in the future, but right now, the spirit was just so sweet watching it. And then we were singing online, and we were like typing the same things too. Take me to the water. We were typing it online. We were enjoying ourselves, and so happy for those that accepted Christ in their lives and went through the baptismal. I went through baptism this morning. Now, after those 5 candidates were baptized, Pastor Quick introduced images of joy throughout, our congregation. They have all submitted pictures and stuff. We submitted pictures too. And we were actually up there. If you look through the pictures, we are there with the Quickness was right there with our picture with the belief above our head. That's the one they decided. We gave them 2 pictures and they used that one. I'm like, oh, that's a good picture to use. Because you never know where we're going to be in there. I was watching the montage and I forgot we had donated our picture too.
Oh, yeah.
I was so into everyone else's picture that when I saw ours, I was like, oh my gosh, there we are. And I had to remember, oh yeah, we did submit one. I forgot. But it was really nice. Pastor Quick also highlighted the clergy by asking them to come down to the altar, and he acknowledged those that survived cancer or are currently fighting cancer and did a special prayer over them. He also reminded First Baptist the responsibility of stewardship and the return, because it's his job to teach us. So he did make sure that he poured into us about where the money's going. He said, some people worry about, do I tithe 10% before taxes, after taxes? He goes, you do what's best, whatever God puts on your heart to do, that's what you do. And in those that couldn't even give tithing for whatever their reasons, he's fine with that too. You do what you can. Right. Then he went on to his actual sermon, which was called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." I know that's not how the song goes, but that's what he decided to call it. Right. Pastor Quick reached for the scriptures, 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1-7 of the New Revised Standard Version. I believe he didn't say the version, but I'm thinking that's the version he took it from. This is where a woman cried to Elijah when her husband died, and she had some debts, and she only had a jar of oil in her home. Elijah told her to go behind closed doors after getting a lot of vessels and pour your oil into them, right? When she did, she kept pouring and pouring until all the vessels were filled, and then she was able to sell the oil to pay off her debt and live off the rest. So in the introduction, Pastor Quick reminded us with the title of his sermon that Gil Scott-Heron on his 1971, The Year I Was Born album, Pieces of a Man, contained the song, The Revolution Will Be Televised. I believe it's the first song, the first track on that album. Now, in my day, the first time I heard The Revolution Will Be Televised was Public Enemy. So he was so right to mention that Public Enemy sampled the work, but that is not where the songs come from. He says it's very important, people, to know your history. That includes music too, right? He said evolution is explained with theories. There's so much that's going on that you don't understand or know about. But everything that you need to learn is not something that's easily seen. Some things we're going to have to do a deep dive and do research into our history to uncover. Then he talked about faith, because the woman with oil, that's all a faith story. It really is a strong faith story. He said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, but not easily seen. When we struggle to hold on to our faith, we need to be able to continue to fight for the vision. We need to get an agreement also as a church when we're trying to achieve our corporate goals. Then he went on to talk about our perseverance. Now, perseverance can be a little tricky thing for all of us. He said it's okay to have faith, but not want the struggle that comes along with having faith. It's almost like an athlete. You want the goal, right? You want to be on the winner circle achieving something, but you have to do the work to get there. He's like saying it's okay to want the goal, but not really want to do the process of the struggle to get to the goal. You know, Serena didn't just wake up as a kid and say, yeah, I want to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time in tennis. She had to actually do the work. I think you were talking too about even just working out every day. It's like, it's a challenge. You know the goal you want, but the challenge of working out can be a bit of a drain.
Yeah, because again, it's like, it's not the actual working out for me sometimes. It's more so like getting to the workout. So whether that's like putting on your workout clothes, getting yourself ready. Because sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to do all this. But then like once I'm actually working out, I've hardly ever regretted it. The only time I have regretted it was when I did this one workout class and I actually got injured. So I was like sore. But see, that was because I didn't properly stretch. So that's my own fault. But for the most part, when I work out, I don't regret working out. So
okay. He did went on to talk about our perseverance. He said, it's okay to be tired, but you have to keep going even when you're tired. All right. Even if you're in the struggle, don't worry about your bills. Don't worry about your health. Worry about persevering. You know, he said there's 5 steps to perseverance. One is make sure your goals are worthy of your perseverance. Like make sure you're doing God's will. 2, recall your past persistence. Remember in the past how you were trying to go forward and achieve something. There might have been some resistance or struggle, but you pushed through. Just like remember when you're in high school and you're a freshman going, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could take this place. It's so different from middle school, but you pushed through to your senior year where you graduated kind of thing.
Yeah, that was like me in college when again, all of my friends were partying. Not saying there's a thing with partying. There's not. It's great. I can't go to school and go to work and also party because something's gonna like fall apart. Yep. So a lot of the partying I did not partake in, which is like, you know, whatever. But I wouldn't have made Dean's List.
Yep.
And I would not have graduated on time if I did not establish a work ethic in college, because after college, I had like a little part-time job at like a retail store, but then I got like a real job with benefits like before all of my friends. So
yeah, because you persevered.
Right.
He says, step out into it. He says, don't study something so long that you don't want to move. And that is so true. It's like if you're an entrepreneur and you keep researching how to do the new business, keep researching it and keep studying it and keep asking people what they would do and not taking the risk of actually making the plan and starting the process for owning your own business, you can just get stuck in that little cycle. So he said, definitely step out into whatever your goal is. The number 4, he said, set the pace. And number 5, keep going. He also, before he ended his sermon, he gave us 3 things to know when things aren't flowing right for us when it comes to our faith. He said, fear freezes the flow. All right. And one of the stories I'm going to tell you at the end of the broadcast in the Bema Seat deals with, you know, not letting fear overcome you. So it kind of ties into this right here. Secondly, he said, family fervor frees the flow. So it's important to have support as you're on your mission and your journey. Like it's hard to go through college without the support of a family or your own family you make for yourself. Some people come to college and they form their own family at college, and those friends are their friends for life, you know?
Right.
And then the last one is favor furnishes the flow. So, you know, God knows what you're trying to do. He's behind you. Even if it's just you and him, close the door, like the lady went into the house and closed the door for oil. He knows. He knows what you're trying to do, and he's there in the trenches with you. If you are interested in Pastor Quick's sermon, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It was live streamed October 23rd, 2022 on the FBC Somerset YouTube channel. So please go there and check it out. We're not doing it justice with this small, brief summary. It was good. And another thing that's beautiful about the ceremony, if you do watch it, we had a nice pink Sunday where everyone actually wrote the names of those that are either or were our angels after battling cancer, or they're currently struggling and fighting it now, or they're survivors. And they released these beautiful balloons in the sanctuary. Did you see that part, Resa?
Yes, I did see that. And then they posted the pictures of the people that had either passed away or, you know, were their angels and so forth, but they somehow had encountered cancer.
Yeah, and we even online, we were putting the names of those that we've lost and those that are fighting and those that were survivors all online. It was beautiful. First Minister Phil said, go ahead and write their names down. And some of us started that, and then it's like some of us started putting names in the chat. Because we were like, I have no shame. I'm gonna show the person that,
Right.
I'm thinking about. And then everyone started putting their names in chat. So we had both going on. People were writing it down personally, and some people were like putting it more displayed for the world on the chat. And that was great. It was beautiful. Like I said, please go to FBC Somerset's YouTube channel and check out the sermon for October 23rd, 2022. Pastor Quick sermon, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. All right. And he said that's not a dig against us online when he said that. It wasn't a dig. It's more about, we need to uncover some stuff. Not everything you need to know is going to be so transparent and right in front of you that we learn. Some things we have to dig for. So let's go on to our next house of worship, which is Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church in Chicago. Now, this church, they reposted a past sermon from last year during October to their YouTube channel, and they posted it on their October 19th, 2022. That's the date you'll find if you're trying to look for it. Look for the October 19th, 2022 sermon, and it's called Make It Do What It Do. Isn't that a great title, Resa? Make It Do What It Do. By Reverend Reginald W. Sharpe Jr. His scriptures come from Acts chapter 27, verses 43 to 44. Now, this is a part of the scripture where Paul is about to be shipwrecked with some other prisoners. And as the ship is going down, the centurion tells the prisoners, those that can swim, jump over and swim. He goes, others floated on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so Reverend Sharpe said, the Black family has always been able to make it out with the very little that we have. We've always found a way to make it work. And then he gave us the example of the tenacity behind the building of Bethune-Cookman University, which is the university of your uncle. Your Uncle Wayne graduated from there. He's at Alpha Phi Alpha. And also he talked about Spelman College, the tenacity of building that school for the women's college set in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
And as he talked about, what we do from the little bits that we have, he moved into the two big themes of October, which is breast cancer and domestic violence. He said for breast cancer, a lot of the Black churches do Pink Sundays, which we just talked about that First Baptist just did. They had the ribbons on, they had pink balloons that they released. And he said, when it comes to Black women, there's a great health disparity. 40% are more likely to die of breast cancer than the other races of women due to our genetics, less mammograms, and lower quality healthcare that's available to us. Because of this situation, we need to continue to acknowledge the fight and the preventions that are needed for the Black community. Then he moved on from breast cancer and talked a little bit about domestic violence. He said 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience domestic violence. And then he gave an instance of Lasmaki, a young woman that he knew that was in a very bad situation. She had left her boyfriend and she moved away. And during the honeymoon phase, he kind of wooed her back to being back with him. And when he got her to come back home and moving back into the town, he ended up killing her after the honeymoon phase had passed. And 4 of her children were left behind. He said, Pastor Sharpe said, domestic violence is evil and that there is verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. It's all very real. So what do you think so far about how he gave us a little bit about both before he's going to go in a little deeper? But any thoughts on some of the stuff that he mentioned so far about domestic violence and breast cancer, Resa?
I definitely think they are two topics that sometimes, especially in our community, we like to pretend like they don't exist, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. In regards to breast cancer, in particular, a lot of people will be like, oh, I don't need it. No one in my family has ever had it, so I don't need to get screened for it. And that type of mentality is unfortunately what ends up like killing a lot of people in our community, because even though, you may not have anyone in your family, like you don't know if you have some type of like DNA that you could be predisposed to have it, or you might already have it, who knows, but you should still go out and you should still get screenings. In regards to domestic violence, mm-hmm. I have known people, close friends of mine, that have been in situations that were domestic violence, whether it was verbally or physical abuse. And again, sometimes the majority of the time, at least in my recollections of it, the people at the time didn't know that they were in it. And at that point, it had went too far left. And there were a couple times where, they left and they came back and they left and they came back. But luckily, in those two instances, both people were able to leave, and they haven't, been back in something like that since then.
Yeah.
But sometimes some people, unfortunately, they get out of one situation that is considered DV and they go into another. And sometimes like those situations don't always end well, but then luckily there are a lot of services out here and different I think of the word. There's services, there is different communities out there that are dedicated to educating both males and females about domestic violence and what is acceptable and what is not, because a lot of people don't realize that certain gestures and certain actions are considered DV, and like no one should be going through that.
Yeah. I mean, being in someone's personal space is something that, needs to be learned by everyone. I mean, you can't assume that just because someone's your wife, someone's your girlfriend, someone's your best friend, that you have a right to tower over or stand in their personal space without being invited. Same thing if they're a child. I don't care if it is your child. We can have actions and things that are intimidating. The beautiful thing about being a pet owner, especially when you get them as puppies, is they make it very clear to you when they feel threatened. Right? When you raise your voice, when you come to them a certain way, they can look in your eyes, they can take a stance like, I'm fearful of you right now. And you know it right away because their whole body will like back up and get on alert with you. Where you go, oh no, I don't want you to think I'm like that. And you start softening yourself because you can see it in the pet. Humans don't do it as much. Children do it at first. They learn to do it. But over time, you can get desensitized to if someone's in your personal space so much that you can internalize the fear more than show it. That's why therapy is so important for all of us. That's why knowing what we should and shouldn't do with each other is very important. Reverend Sharpe did speak about toxic masculinity and how there's a cycle to domestic abuse. You can have honeymoon phase, tension building phase, and an explosion that can keep going in that circle. And we need to wake up and see that it exists. He also said something very important. He said, the Black church needs to be behind breaking that cycle of abuse. There should be no more of that. You just stay married because you're married and work through it. He said, just like I signed your marriage certificate, I have no problem signing your divorce decree if it had to do with domestic violence is the reason why you need to get out. And I appreciated him saying that from the pulpit. It's not said enough. Sometimes there's an undercurrent when you have these Sundays where people are talking about breast cancer or domestic violence, and it's what the pastor didn't say that people kind of hold on to and say, well, he didn't say you can leave your husband. So for him to say it is a great thing that he said it from the pulpit, because a lot of pastors believe that now, that we need to break the cycle. So the more they say it, the more that the men that are doing it, they might get to the point where they're not happy about their woman that they're abusing, their wife they're abusing, going to church, because she's going to learn that there. It might be cards in the bathroom that say, if you're struggling and if this is going on, please contact this ministry. Please call this number. It might be right in the women's room and he can't do anything about it. Why? Because if a woman needs to use the bathroom, she goes to the restroom.
And I feel like too, like more times than not, like the people that do go, whether it's to their pastor, their best friend, whomever, and they actually say like what is going on in their personal life, 9 times out of 10, they're already in a very fragile and they feel like embarrassed. So for someone of authority to say, oh, well, you know what, maybe you should stop, blah, blah, blah. Or like they're trying to flip it back on you as if you're the reason why you're going through this type of hell, quote unquote, like that's not cool. But we do have, like you said, sometimes there are like cards in the bathroom that say, hey, like if you need help, text this number. Or there was something on the news that actually came about. I can't remember exactly, but this woman had called, I guess, 911 and she had pretended that, she was calling in a pizza. And there was some type of coding that was happening, but luckily the operator from 911 realized what was going on. And she had basically told the woman, just stay on the line. We're going to pretend like we're ordering pizza and I will have a police officer, come to the house to, to get you and your children out of that situation. But DV, as broad as it is, every situation is not like a Tina, it's not like a Ike and Tina situation where it is like extremely violent. It could be something as like emotional abuse, where you have someone constantly putting you down and making you feel some type of way because, I don't know, maybe you're out here trying to better yourself, or maybe, I don't know, or maybe you just want to break the cycle of what you've seen in your family, and maybe that person's threatened because they have like some type of insecurity. Like DV it has like a wide range of things, but I do think it is extremely important in this day and age that we all educate ourselves as to what is expected and what is not okay when it comes to different people, because some things were just passed down through our culture and maybe through our family, where you think, oh, I've seen that before, it's not a big deal. But then when someone tells you, like, you do understand that that's like emotional abuse, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, I wasn't trying to do that, I just thought, that's what I should do. And they're like, well, no, like, you shouldn't do it, and let me explain why. So
you're absolutely right. Another thing that people need to look out for, and I hope our religious leaders will, is isolation. Sometimes the abuser, who doesn't think he's being abused because he's not putting his hands on you, but he might be isolating you from your family, from your friends, telling you any kind of narrative that makes you seem like, I'm your family. You can't rely on them, you need to rely on me, and things of that sort. That is a way of changing your perception of the people that love and care about you so that it can isolate you. So that is one of the things that people that abuse do. They don't want you to be able to go to your best friend's house and have a girls' night every Wednesday, because why? It's better that they can keep you in the cycle of just that household and know what you're coming and going and what you're doing. They want to take you everywhere you need to go, instead of letting your girlfriend pick you up or your mom stop by and pick up you and the baby to go do something. Oh, I'll take you. So your autonomy gets eroded away. And then you turn around and years later, you realize, I don't go anywhere without him. I don't do anything with my friends anymore. My friends stop, calling and trying to see me because I haven't done anything with them in years. And next thing you know, You're isolated. So you're right. There's a lot of different layers to it. He went on to say, there was a part in the sermon that Pastor Sharpe said, he was speaking to a young lady. I want to say young lady, even though she was an elderly lady, so many years young. But she was preparing for death, between hospice or being on a ventilator or just dying of natural causes. And he said he instructed her to get ready for the end of her life by concentrating on what's important to her. Sometimes you can break cycles by looking at what the end result is you really want. So she knew she wanted to finish writing a book. She knew there was some of her affairs she wanted to get in order. So he said, don't lose your fight, don't lose your faith, and make it by any means necessary if that's what you want to do. You can make it on the broken pieces. Just like you saw people like in the beginning in the scripture, Paul might have swam the shore because he might have been good at swimming. Other people were on boards, other people were on pieces of the ship. Take whatever pieces you have and keep the fight up. Okay, that's what he basically said. Now you can view Reverend Reginald W. Sharpe Jr.'s past sermon, Make It Do What It Do, posted on the October 19th, 2022 for Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, Chicago, on their YouTube channel. Okay, I hope you'll check it out. I mean, it was really good, and it totally ties into the themes of October. So let's move on now to the screening room.
It's time for that weekly movie review in the screening room.
Resa, I watched the film. It made me cry.
Uh-oh.
It made me cry at the end.
What film was this, and what's it about?
Okay, it was called God's Compass, Find Your North Star. It came out in 2016. It was written by Steven Schultz and directed by him. It stars Karen Abercrombie. You should recognize that name because I believe she's connected to everybody in Hollywood, if you ask me.
Yes.
T.C. Stallings, Giselle Foster, Joey Abinez, Robert Amaya, Thomas Lee Baker, Acelia Vibar, and others. Now here's the quick synopsis, and with the Quickness recommends this for family viewing. Suzanne Waters, played by Karen Abercrombie, love her. She had just passed the baton of being principal of the local high school. She's officially retiring, right? Having spent her lifetime teaching life lessons, the journey into retirement is about to bring her one of her greatest lessons. Her lesson plan will come from a troubled young man named Eli as she starts to invest in his life. Now, Susanna, because her name is Susanna Waters, becomes a first-time grandmother after she retires, which is a really sweet thing. I can relate to grandmother because we just had a new baby coming to our family. So I love that she's a first-time grandmother. I kind of like, aw. And the new life of the baby brings a renewed hope to the family as each member discovers the core values in God's plan for their lives. Now, as Susanna reflects back on her life of faithfulness, we are reminded that no incident in God's kingdom, no chance meeting, and no purposeless step is taken. Everything that God has unfolded in your world happens for a reason. You learn that in the story. This film, God's Compass, won the 2016 Best Screenplay Award at the International Christian Film Festival. The themes are its character building, redemption's one the theme, crimes, compassionate service, family, faith, blessings, the foster care system, inspiration, and trust. This film, for me, dealt with this principle. She could be doing all kinds of things when you retire, Resa. She could have sat there and said, I'm retired, I'm gonna go take a trip. But, this young man came into her world just by helping her daughter-in-law as she was about to give birth. He helped her. And because she reached out, because the daughter-in-law said, Mom, I want you to find that young man and thank him. Because she went on the journey to thank him, God revealed how this young man, she was supposed to be in his life and have some things work out in his life. And it's such a beautiful story. Oh my gosh, Resa, I just loved it. It had a little bit of Grey's Anatomy feel because Susanna's son was a doctor. So you have a lot of doctor and hospital stuff going on. You had the foster care system right in there, judges and lawyers and police officers, and the criminal justice system is wrapped up in there. But I was on my seat. And at the end, I was like crying. I was crying how God just made it all work out. I said, how God is going to tie all this together? I couldn't figure it out. And then like a beautiful souffle of stuff. It's just like, oh, wow, that's what happened at the end. I didn't even see it happening. I cried a couple of tears. I'm not going to lie. Beautiful. Oh. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And I think it ties into the whole faith thing that Pastor Quick was talking about. She was doing everything based on faith. Her son's like, why are you doing this? You're like, I don't know. God told me to do it. I mean, it sounds weird when Christians do that. And we do it a lot in our lives, right? We say, right. I'm going to do this. I'm not sure why God wants me to do it. We're going to do it. It sounds really weird to non-believers or to new Christians, because this podcast is for new and rededicated Christians. It might sound weird when people stand up and bear their testimony and say, I don't know why God had me do it, but I'm going to do this. Yeah, that's what happens. Have you ever had instances where you've done something, you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, Lord, but it made sense later?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I just get this overwhelming feeling that I cannot shake. And more times than not, that's just God knocking, saying like, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And you're just like, I don't know why, but I'm going to do it because he told me to do it. And, and it's not until I look back on the situation, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that's why he had me do that.
Exactly.
At the time, but I get it.
Exactly. I've had a chance when I was praying in my prayer closet for me, and God gave me a message for one of my colleagues. And I turned to God and said, I wasn't praying for her, Lord. I was praying for me.
Oh my God.
And God's like, I get that, but I want you to give this message to so-and-so.
Right.
And it was the weirdest things. I was going, this chick going to run to HR and say, Angeline trying to bring Christianity up into, I didn't know if she was a Christian or not. Had not a clue. How you have work, colleagues, doesn't mean you're work best friends. You just see each other at work and you know of each other and you get along. But I didn't know if she was of the Christian faith, if she was an atheist, if she had another faith. I didn't know how she was going to take this. But I was like, Lord, you sure? And God was like, I'm sure. I said, but I was praying for me. He goes, I got that. Give her the message. And I went to one of our prayer warriors at my work, one of my friends, Sheila, and she said, yeah, if God told you to do it, you better do it. And I was like, okay. I said, I don't understand him. I'm going to do it. So I went in there and said my one phrase, the one phrase he told me to say to her. I said it. I said, I don't know what that means. I hope you know what it means. And she said, yeah, I know what that means. I said, okay, that's all that matters. You ain't got to say nothing else. And I'm going to leave now before you be wanting to call HR on me. And she laughed and I laughed and I left.
Oh my God.
Next thing I know, that she ain't even working at my job anymore. So I don't even know what it's about. I don't know what it was about, but I'm hoping she's happy where she is. She was very delighted once I told her the message. From the weeks after me telling her the message, you know, we could see a change in her countenance and how she was. So I'm hoping whatever it was good news, but I have not a clue of what it meant.
See, I've never had something like that where I was praying, God was like, oh, tell this person, whatever. It's always been like certain people have like come into my life for some reason. And I'm just like, I don't know why. And then we end up having like these heart-to-heart conversations. Don't ask me why, they just happen. I don't know. And it's not until like years later, and then like God's like explaining to me why that happened, or like I'm having like a moment and I'm praying and I'm like, oh, that's why, you know, this person came into my life, or that's why I came to their life, because now it's like a full circle moment.
I think parents experience it a lot. Sometimes when God tells parents certain things about their kids, like to let go or let them go to certain colleges and other stuff, and you're like, no, but I want them to go to this state school here. I want them close to home. And God's like, let them go, let them go. And then you realize later that's where they met their best friend. That's where they got their mentor. That's where they, you know, found who they were supposed to be. It all makes sense on the other side of college graduation. But when you're trying to let them go and get your claws out of their back and letting them fly, it's hard because all you see them as children and you want to be close by in case something happens. You want to be close by for protection. You want to be close by in laundry distance if they need you.
Right.
Well, it was really good. So I love the movie. If you hope to watch, you know, God's Compass, you can definitely check out the trailer on withthequickness.com. So www.withthequickness.com. We'll have the trailer listed. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you will. You can check it out. I'm sure you can also, you know, buy the film yourself or watch it on one of the streaming services. Now let's go to the last part of the show.
Come before the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat. When life's journeys meet. Every week, testimony of the one who brings hope and victory. With joy and reverence, we will sing our praises to the King of Kings, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat.
Last season we had Before the Bema Seat. And I made a decision that when it comes to interviewing others about their Christian experience, that if we did not have anyone for that particular Sunday, that I would look up a real life story and tell you guys about it, right? Mm-hmm. So let me tell you about a story I discovered from David Hess, Reverend Hess. It's called Shielded by the Lord. Now, he's a pastor in Pennsylvania, and he tells a story about a time when he was deathly ill. And one of his parishioners in his church came forward to give him hope with a Bible verse. It was like he was actually recovering. He was in his last round of chemo. Because we're having this whole breast cancer awareness and cancer awareness in this month, I wanted a story that kind of dealt with cancer a little bit. So bear with me. So Pastor David was in his last round of chemotherapy. And he had acute myeloid leukemia, which is like a cancer of the blood. So in his last round, one of his oldest parishioners, Fanny, came to him and she said, and I quote, she said, Pastor David, I'm not sure what this means, but you will find the Lord to be a shield around you. That's in the Bible somewhere, or maybe a hymn. I just don't know why he wants me to tell you that. And so Pastor Hess, David Hess said, oh, I knew she's quoting David, you know, a Psalms of David, where he says, you are a shield around me, oh Lord. That's what David actually writes in the scripture. And he said, so, okay. He didn't think it applied too much because he's in the last round of chemo, but okay. He took it into advisement, and he went on to be thankful that his wife, Sherry, and his 3 kids have been very supportive of his journey, you know, fighting cancer. He even danced with his daughter in the hospital room before her prom. And, you know, he was just happy about getting home. So at some point before he's released, the oncologist comes in and says, I'm pleased with your test results. You know, everything's going the way it's supposed to go. And his appendix burst. And if anybody knows, when your appendix burst, it's a very painful thing. And in order to have the surgery, your immune system has to be kind of at a heightened level. It has to be okay for surgery. Your white blood cells have to be okay for surgery. And his weren't okay because he was in chemo. So his platelet count was very low. His blood couldn't even clot. So if they cut into him, it would have been terrible, right? So, and he couldn't fight off any infections at this point. So surgery is not an option. So when his appendix bursts, there's a lot of toxins going through his body, a lot of poison. So the doctors took a tube and they put it in his abdomen to drain out some of the toxins. And they told him, you probably have only hours to survive. So at this point, everyone starts praying. Everyone comes and visits. Some people pray. Some people even said goodbye, believe it or not. They went to their pastor and said, bye, Pastor David, which is kind of harsh. But some people were thinking like they're getting told by the doctor he might have hours. They all playing it by ear, right? So the nurses kept him comfortable. He was put on, they doped him up on, different anesthesia and painkillers and stuff like that. And when his wife went home with the kids, he was forced to still hear on the intercom twice a day. They do a scripture reading at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And he kind of was losing hope. He's like, I went through all this chemo and everything else. I'm supposed to be going home. And fear overtook him, like Pastor Quick was talking about. Fear, Pastor David Hess believes, is not just an emotion. He believes it's a spirit. It's an evil spirit that can speak loud to you. Like you can get all in your head with fear. He said he pictured his wife home alone, mustering up the courage to hold their family together. He saw his daughter in her wedding gown getting married without him walking her down the aisle. His sons playing pickup football without him on the sidelines cheering them on. In the spirit whispered to him, you're gone and they're alone. And so he said to himself right in that moment, oh my gosh, he's right. What am I going to do? And then Fanny's words came to his mind. And they said, you are a shield around me, O Lord, he said out loud. You are a shield around me, O Lord. He kept saying it and he kept saying it till he fell asleep. So the next day he woke up. So luckily it was longer than hours that he was in that position. And the next day he woke up again. And the next day he woke up and the doctors kind of figured like, okay, even though his appendix burst and he's trying to survive cancer, he might be okay to go home. So after a week, they let him go home. And so even though they let him go home, Resa, they told him like, we're not sure if you're going to be back or if this is a good thing or not. Take it easy. We need you to come back every couple of days because we want to check on you to see if you're healthy enough to get this surgery. So he goes home. He does a father's prayer over his kids. And in his father's prayer, he says, Lord, let all heaven break loose upon them as they fulfill their destinies. He played with his dog. He laughed and joked with his wife. He played piano with his kids. He did everything he wanted to do to make him be at peace in case he lost his life. So somehow, he made it to 6 weeks of just being home and going back and forth to the hospital, seeing if he's okay for surgery. Is he okay for surgery? And so the day came where his platelet levels kind of normalized. And the doctor came to him in preparation for the surgery. And he said, I'm going to do an exploratory procedure, the doctor said. He goes, we need to see what damage has been done to your body from, the appendix bursting. So through a fog of anesthesia, David remembered what Fanny said, her words about, you are a shield around me, Lord. You're a shield, because he's getting ready for surgery. And the doctor asked him, so have you ever had any surgeries before, David? And he says, well, only my tonsils. And he goes, okay, well, let me show you this glossy photo of your abdomen, like the x-ray. And so he said, here's your appendix. Well, what's left of it. And then he pointed with his pen and said, but surrounding the area of your appendix is kind of a tent composed of adhesions. And he made a circle on the film. He said, it's the strongest kind of scar tissue there is. And we normally see it only after someone had a surgery. So David, Pastor David Hess said, so what's that mean? And he goes, well, all the toxins were kind of contained within this structure, So these are adhesions. They acted almost like tiny shields packed together, containing everything. Mind blown, mic drop. Because you remember what he was praying all this time, right, Resa?
Right.
You are a shield around me, O Lord. You are a shield around me. And inside his body, all the areas of the toxins were being contained. Wow. So his life was spared, thanks to God. So mothers of the church, they like to walk around and give wisdom. Cautionary tale, you need to listen to those ladies. No matter if you're in whether you're in the priesthood or you're a bishop, deacon, whatever, or you're just a regular, kid, attending church. So church mother says, I got a scripture for you. You should stop what you're doing and listen and write down that scripture because it might come in handy. I love that story about David Hess. And he's a real guy, real man, and he's doing well in his life. And I believe the church he belongs to, I think I have it written down somewhere. Let me see, is Christ Community Church in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So if you get a chance to catch him online somewhere, you can tell him you heard his story and that it helped you and that it's going to help you realize the importance of the power of prayer and the power of actually staying in faith, like Pastor Quick says. Sometimes you have to tell yourself the right things. You need to abolish fear and stay in your faith. That's what, like Pastor Quick says, abolish fear and stay in your faith. And if it helps saying a scripture many times or being around people that are faith building people, then do that. What do you think of the story this week, Resa?
I actually like that story. And again, God is real because I like the fact that he had like a tent over and they didn't even do surgery
of adhesions.
Right. And normally they would see adhesions after surgery. That means God went in there and was like,
the master surgeon himself. Right. So if you would like to share your story of your Christian experience, one that would inspire new and rededicated Christians, please visit www.withthequickness.com and select the Bema Seat tab. There you'll fill out the interview form and we can schedule a virtual interview with you. You can also email Bema Seat at withquickness.com and begin the guest process. And like always, Resa, if no one's in our email box or fills out that form, there'll be another story next week. Why? Because that's what we're doing this season. We're going to have some kind of testimony given from somewhere. I will find it. I will locate it. And if you know someone that has a really good faith-based story and you want to share that but not be interviewed, drop us a line. Tell us where that story exists. We'll look it up. We'll read it and we'll share it. Okay. Just make sure it's truthful. Real people.
Yes.
Well, Resa, another episode completed. How do you feel this week?
I feel good. I'm ready to start the week off because we got a good sermon. Well, we actually got 2 good sermons this week. So
yeah. Now this week, Pastor Quick and First Baptist will be doing a tent revival. Come Wednesday, I think Thursday and Friday. I think it might be 3 days. It might be 2 days. I'm not sure, but I know it starts on Wednesday. And they're going to be a tent on the front parking lot of First Baptist Church in Somerset. There'll be heaters in case it gets cold. And I'm kind of hoping that it will still be broadcast and streamed online, live on YouTube. I'm hoping. What do you think? Are you going to be able to tune in online? Because I know you're not going to be able to make it down because of your prior commitments.
Right. Like, I definitely am going to tune online because, again, a lot of people work crazy hours, myself included. So, if they have it online, I'll definitely have it on so I can listen to it as I finish my other stuff.
I normally do my Wednesday Bible study at that time. I'm really hoping my schedule this week will allow me to go down. Mm-hmm. I'll put on a nice long, big jacket, long coat and brave the storm. It all depends on how I'm feeling. Cause I did take my COVID and flu shot together. And they say sometimes when you take them together, it can give you flu-like symptoms for a little bit. So if I'm feeling up to it, I'm definitely going to go. Otherwise, I'm going to be online. I hope that option is there. It's not the same as being in the tent. I'm going to try my best to be in the tent, but if not, I hope I can still take part the way I normally would. The one bad thing I wonder about, Resa, is like now that, everything's getting more open and everybody's going back, how do I go to church and still do the online ministry stuff? I like being with the saints online too. Can I be in the sanctuary and be on my smartphone, or would that seem like disrespectful for those that are sitting around me?
That's a little much. Like if you're in the sanctuary, you don't really need to be virtually. That's just me, because I'm like, if you're there, you should be in the moment. If you're not there, then go virtually.
I know. That's the thing. I'm going to miss people though. Because I do see how some churches, it's okay. You can have a whole online ministry sitting in a couple pews behind you doing the online virtual and currently there. I've seen that done. It's done very well and it's respectfully done and no one has a problem with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Maybe I don't want a church mom to say anything to me like, you should get off your phone. I don't want a dirty look or something. Just because it's like, hey, that's part of my worship experience right there.
Like, do you mean like being online so you can chat with the other people that are also like watching it? Like,
well, that's what I'm talking about. When you're in the church, usually you can actually, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm just going to miss people. I think I'm going to miss them a little bit.
That to me is like the same equivalent of like going to a Beyonce concert because she's going to go on tour next summer. And if I was on Instagram Live, I can't enjoy the experience because I'm online and she's right there. So I'm just like, love y'all. But that's why when I go to like events, whether it's like a church event or not, I'm not on my phone.
I guess you're right. I guess it's best to tell everybody, hi guys, I'm in the sanctuary today. So I'm not going to be online, but I'm going to be, checking you guys' action out later and what you said later. I guess you're right. Stay in the moment when you're on the premises if you can.
Yeah. Like that's just me. Because when it comes to the phone and trying to capture things, I'm kind of slow at it, even though I am only 31. But still, I don't know how these younger people are able to be on their phones and like I can't multitask like that. Not on my free time at least.
No, I get you. I just feel like it's a beautiful family online. Sometimes some of the churches have a really beautiful family of saints that like to tune in regularly, and they come from all over the world and all over the United States. I'll miss them, but if I do go in person to the revival, I am going to take out my phone real quick and say, "Hey, I'm here in the tent, guys. But I'm thinking about you guys, but it's too cold to be typing. So I'm just going to be in the spirit and watching everything. And I'll check you guys out on Sunday. I'm going to try my best to see if I can attend. We'll see what my week looks like.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm putting God on a shelf and I'm going to fit him in no, I'm not trying to say that I will make room for you, Lord. I will make room for you. It's more about how cold it is. And if I can make it down to the church on time to make it, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but Lord, just be with me, Lord.
I do know, because I tend to check the weather forecast every Sunday. It is supposed to rain all week, so I don't know how they're going to go about having the heaters if it's raining outside, because I don't want anybody to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they might reschedule. I don't know.
Generators, power cords, and water do not work. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It could also get moved inside due to rain. Right. They might have a rain plan.
Right. So maybe it'll be inside the church instead of outside.
See how Satan is trying to work with us? I mean, hopefully it'll change. Hopefully by Tuesday, what you thought was going to be rain all week is like cleared up.
Right. Because again, the forecast will say one thing. It'll say rain one day and it's actually just a super cold day. So it's like, I don't know. Plus it's Jersey. Jersey is like, it's very, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it was a pleasure once again on this Sunday to share, some time with you and to talk about the sermons and some good music and good movies that we came across. Thank you so much, Resa. It's been like a pleasure, like always.
Like always, yes.
All right. So everybody, we hope you have a great rest of the week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you.
With everything crazy, you're still my source of peace. You filter out the lows, you give me what I need.
Feel like you never leave my thoughts alone.
Disconnected, I feel the pressure, I need acceptance.
You're the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you. You got me feeling some type of way.
Feeling more solid about who the man in the mirror is.
You make me wanna stay in all day.
With everything crazy, you still my source of
You're the
peace.
reason I can't get out my head. I just can't stop thinking about